Dr. Grace Burns has spent her career as a physical therapist working with the elderly, a role that became vital when her mother was diagnosed with dementia in 2018.
We had seen some signs of it before that and had luckily moved her closer so I could help with the medical care. My dad passed away suddenly and I was thrown into the role of primary caregiver.
That change made Grace the one out of every 5 Americans who provide regular care to those in need, which may include preparing meals, cleaning, taking to appointments, or any other number of tasks in a role that is as difficult to define as it is to perform.
Taking care of someone and putting a lot of time and energy into something that's only going to get worse is emotionally draining. You have to be available 24/7 because you don't know what's going to come up, especially in later stages. So to commit to a full-time job, certainly, even with the laws in place to help protect caregivers, it's just not feasible.
There are 53 million Americans like Grace who provide vital care for their loved ones, often at a very significant financial cost.
Family caregivers are more likely to experience negative financial impacts. In some cases, they're leaving the workforce. Over 60% of family caregivers provide care while working, but many family caregivers, because of the severity of the care, need to leave the workforce.
Women who take time out of their careers to help care for their spouse or for their parents, they average a cost of $324,000 in terms of benefits and lost wages.
$324,000 in lost benefits and wages, with per capita income in the United States at $41,000. That's a sacrifice of almost 8 years of benefits and wages for the average American, a cost they should not have to bear alone.
We invest in highways, we invest in the internet, right? Those things are essential to making all work possible. Well, care is also essential to making all work possible. So we have to really think about it as what infrastructure needs to be in place to support not just traditional economic opportunities, but just really more informal economic opportunities like caregiving.
And that's just from a financial standpoint. The emotional cost to caregivers is impossible to quantify.
We think it's good that people take care of each other. What we think is bad is that there is an impact to the health and the financial well-being and the emotional wellness of the person who's doing the caregiving. It's painful to see somebody you love be sick or to lose function or to have a disability that prevents them from being able to fully participate in society. And there's not a lot of support for caregivers on that emotional side.
President Biden placed caregivers in the national discourse by mentioning them in an early State of the Union address.
Let's give more breathing room to millions of family caregivers looking after their loved ones.
But the United States remains at a crossroads for how to compensate caregivers.
Is the government responsible for picking up that lack of money that I would have had? We don't know. We haven't really decided that as a society.
The time to decide, with an aging population and a system already under severe strain, is now.
Say all 53 million unpaid family caregivers in this country were to disappear, and all those folks needed to move into a nursing home paid for by Medicaid, we would bankrupt not just the Medicaid program, we would bankrupt the federal government.
Caregivers provide an invaluable resource to our society, and it's time for our country to give back. The first step is empathizing with caregivers and valuing their service.
You're on a phone call with somebody and they say, give me 10 minutes, I got to get up and just help my mom go to the bathroom. That type of transparency across generations is really new. And I think younger emerging leaders are very comfortable with that in a way that is healthy and good for the rest of us.
While empathy is important, financial support is vital. The United States is one of the only countries in the world that does not have paid family medical leave, which means that American people are often forced to choose between going without pay or without providing care for a loved one in need.
More and more states are passing state-based paid family and medical leave policies. And what we see in those states is that caregivers, particularly women caregivers, are better able to provide care. They're staying in the workforce longer. They're staying with their employers longer, and they're able to address things like lost Social Security earnings over time.
These changes at the national level would go a long way down a two-way street in supporting caregivers and those who are supported by them.
We're a nation of caregivers, and even as we speak, there are 50 million of us who are either caring as family caregivers or as professional caregivers for our growing aging population and for people with disabilities. And those numbers are going to double by the year 2050.
As the aging population grows, so will our need for caregivers. In the near future, we will rely on them more than ever.
For hundreds of years, that it has been, the assumption is that we would take care of the older generations. Hopefully, my children will watch us take care of our parents, and then, that cycle will continue.
But this cycle will be impossible to maintain and continue without more support from our government. In the next 20 years, we hope for nothing more than our essential caregivers to get more support and recognition for all of the hard work they do.